you can promote our stuff. You're going to use it every week. You're going to, pretty much promote our sticks as you're playing with them. In return, we can give you great discounts. We can publicize your hockey career. So we share a lot of our customers' content on Instagram and TikTok, which is free marketing for us, and it's great for them as well. If they want to progress to county or national level, they can get some exposure through us as well. So I'd say influencer marketing, which is basically what our sponsorships are, is one of the biggest factors in terms of our growth so far.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 16 of Seller Radio with George from Rival Hockey, an e-commerce store that sells hockey equipment, clothing, etc. So thank you so much for coming on board and joining us today. I think the best place to start is just for you to maybe tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of drew you to starting Rival Hockey.
Sure. So I've been in the sort of e-commerce space since my early teens, to be honest. Started off importing stuff from China, like Alibaba, importing, electronics, jewelry, anything I could really, find a niche and get onto eBay, that kind of thing. Had some small bits of success doing that, but nothing really major. And I kind of had to take a step back and think, what is it that I'm actually passionate about, rather than saying, okay, I found this product, just stick it on eBay. I wanted a more long-term plan. So being a passionate and long-time hockey player, I then decided, well, why can't I take my passion for hockey and link that into my e-commerce experience that I already have? And that's sort of where I stumbled upon the idea of Rival Hockey. So using the same kind of techniques, working with suppliers, Alibaba, filtering out the best products to sell, market research, what's in demand in the hockey niche, that kind of thing, and just sort of ran with it really. So yeah, that's been so far since December 2020 when we started, and yeah, we've done amazingly well over the last 12 months. So it's been a really good start.
Yeah, nice. Well, I was going to ask quickly because about the Alibaba. I used to actually sell products found and sourced from China, from Alibaba. Most people that are probably listening, or resellers in general, our customers, are often finding their products in charity stores or wholesalers. Might be quite a nice place to start is talking about buying stuff from manufacturers off Alibaba in China. How have you found that?
It's tricky. So it's a real lottery, and it's not like we just stumbled upon the first supplier and that was it. We got a great product. That's not how it worked at all. So it's a real lottery, and you have to do a lot of vetting, and it takes a lot of time to find the right product, the right price, and the right quality, most importantly. So before we actually started in December, that's when we released and launched the products. Way before that, 6 months before, we were actually trying to source the products, find the suppliers, find the right manufacturers. And we spent a good 6 months testing, getting samples of about 10, 15, 20 factories, and just testing as much as we could.
The samples is a nightmare, isn't it? Because they're really expensive. Shipping's really expensive. And then it takes like a month for them to get there as well.
Exactly, yeah. And then communication is another massive barrier that we fell into as well. Yeah. So a lot of the suppliers don't speak very good English. So there's a lot of misunderstandings, and you don't really know what you're going to end up getting, really. So in the end, we managed to find someone who spoke perfect English. The quality of the product is amazing. The price is great. But yeah, it wasn't a quick process to get to where we are.
Well, it took you 6 months to get there.
Yep.
Worth the wait, I guess. But
definitely.
Yeah. I guess it's a word of warning to people out there doing that, is like, don't rush it. When I was buying stuff on Alibaba and reselling it, I had to get many samples and then redo them and send them back, and it's once you find the right person, it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
I've heard horror stories from Alibaba where people have paid like 5-10k to get a big shipment, and all the items are faulty or they can't sell them because they don't have correct certifications, etc. I mean, how do you avoid that happening? Because it seems to be quite a common issue.
I mean, it is tricky, and particularly with non-Chinese sellers, I think it's even more tricky. So with Alibaba, there's like a trade protection program that they offer. So you do the payment through Alibaba, and then you're pretty much covered if anything goes wrong. But that's only for their Chinese sellers. So like us, when we manufacture all of our products in India, because that's where the best quality products come from in hockey, there's no such thing as trade assurance. So you're pretty much taking a gamble, a big risk. So that's why you have to go through the whole vetting process. Is this company reliable? We did checks for at least a good couple of weeks. Can we trust this company? Who are they currently supplying for? If they can't tell us that information, can we do some kind of other third-party checks on them just to make sure they are legit and not just a one-man band that just wants to make some quick cash?
Yeah.
So it's tricky, but sometimes you have to go with your gut as well, and if you're dealing with someone who's genuine, and if their communication's good, their track record on Alibaba is good, then you're probably making the right decision.
Yeah. When you say you do checks on them to make sure that it's kind of all looking good, is that reference checks of the customers, or how are you doing that? Like, what are you looking for?
So unfortunately, a lot of the companies are under NDA, so they won't reveal sometimes their exact brands that they're producing for at the moment, understandably. But what we can do is check, their company name, go on their website. Do they have a professional presence? Any bad reviews online? That kind of thing. So some of the factories, for example, we ended up communicating via email, and some of them only had a Gmail address as their email, and that's number one red flag.
Big red flag.
I mean, you just don't want to be dealing with someone that doesn't at least have a website to deal with.
Yeah.
And the guys we're working with right now, really great website. They've been running for 40 years. And we try to, verify that and make sure it's all legit.
And they've got reviews on Alibaba, to be fair.
Yeah.
Which you can cross-check.
See how long they've been on, how many transactions they've done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And in terms of your background with hockey, so, when did you start playing hockey?
So I started midway through secondary school.
Okay.
So in terms of hockey terms, that's a bit late, some people would say. So about 13. The school didn't actually offer it as a sport, so that was why it took me so long to get into it. But there was an after-school club run by the local hockey team. So just sort of stumbled into it. A couple of friends came along too, and all of those friends are still playing hockey today with us. So it's really cool.
Wearing your stuff, buying your stuff.
Yes,
Nice.
quite a few of them. It's good. It's very good.
That is key.
I guess something that I found really interesting about your site is the way that you're selling your own items, whereas a lot of people out there are kind of reselling big companies' items.
Yeah.
So you must have seen a gap basically where you thought, okay, I can make this better than other people, and so let me do it myself. What was that gap?
So one of the reasons I started Rival was the frustration of mostly buying a hockey stick. Not the other equipment, not so much, but the sticks, which is our main sort of product, that was a big frustration. So when I was looking for a new hockey stick, I'd go to an online retailer that has all the brands, and I'd be trawling through hundreds of different options, different price points, different carbon fiber percentages, and there was just so much information, but none of it really told you what was good. Like, as a player, what is the best stick for me to play good hockey? Nothing talked about that. All it talked about was the composition, the materials that are used, but nothing more, like the weight. But how is that meant to correlate to how I actually play?
Yeah.
So we decided our gap is essentially specializing in making sticks that actually make players perform better. So say I'm a defender and I like to do big aerial chucks, so you chuck the ball in the air, like all the way down the pitch. I like to do those skills. What stick is going to allow me to do that best? So that's when we've developed one of our sticks that has a groove in the head, so it allows you to easily sort of lift the ball up. It's really lightweight, that kind of thing. So we try and match every single player to the perfect stick for them. We have a quiz on the website as well, which then a couple of questions: where do you play? What skills do you like to do? What tackles? What shots? All of those kind of things, and then it will match you with your best stick.
Yeah.
The tailored approach is, I think that's a really nice idea. How did you like actually implement that on your website? What tool did you use?
A number of different tools, so it was quite a pain in the arse to really get that sorted. A number of different quiz tools. So in the end, we ended up going down the route of sort of build it yourself. It's quite a number of components plugged into each other, so it's not one tool that does everything, unfortunately, which we spent hours looking for in the first place. But a lot of the time it's finding little pieces of the puzzle and then finding like a Shopify app that does that little piece and then connecting them all together. So we've got one app for quizzes, we've got one app for like personalization and that kind of thing. So not easy, but
how are your coding skills?
Improved, but still not
nice.
Not as good as
Did they contribute to building it and putting it all together?
I think so. So I've been building websites as well as a sort of minor hobby since I was probably about 15.
Okay.
So I sort of knew my way around how to build a website. I hadn't built a Shopify store before, but I knew websites in general. So I think that helped quite a bit.
That is handy.
Yeah. What really interests me about your brand is the marketing, because obviously with the funnel, you know, it's quite impressive. You got that quiz, you go on there, obviously as a hockey player, it invites you to take it, and then you obviously suggest the correct hockey stick, which is both useful information, but obviously pushes them to purchase. So, I mean, what other kind of funnel improvements have you put in place, techniques that you put in place to help with sales?
So one of our biggest, or two of our biggest points of sales, one, we target clubs directly. So we make partnerships with local area clubs or just UK clubs in general, where we can say, okay, this is the retail price of our sticks, but we can offer you this price because we want to, you know, form a long-term partnership with you as a brand. So that's one way we get direct traffic coming towards us. And the second option is sponsorships. So in sort of the hockey market, sponsorships are a massive thing. So bigger than a lot of other markets where you'd have just influencers. In hockey, everyone seems to want to be sponsored by a brand. So they want to support a brand and sort of follow them on that journey and, you know, progress with them as they release, you know, new gear and that kind of thing. And it's quite common in the hockey market for players to either receive free items as part of that sponsorship in return for promoting the brand, or discounts on the items as well. So one of the things we do push as well is sponsorships, because we want to then form those sort of long-term relationships with our customers. So rather than just saying, okay, here's our brand, we want you to buy a stick. That's not, you know, the general approach we go down. We want to say, okay, we've got a great product. We want to support you in getting better as a player. And that's what our products do. How can we do that? Well, we can form a long-term partnership with you. You can promote our stuff. You're going to use it every week. You're going to, you know, pretty much promote our sticks as you're playing with them. In return, we can give you great discounts. We can publicize your hockey career. So we share a lot of our customers' content on Instagram and TikTok, which is free marketing for us, and it's great for them as well. You know, if they want to progress to county or national level, they can get some exposure through us as well. So I'd say influencer marketing, which is basically what our sponsorships are, is one of the biggest factors in terms of our growth so far. You know, most of our sales will come through sponsorships in some kind of form.
Yeah. How are you finding these people? Is that through social media?
Yes. So we started off doing paid social, as a lot of people would do when they launch a brand. They you know, want to find customers quickly. They want to find them cost effectively. So we tried Facebook ads, Instagram ads, that kind of thing. But what we quickly found is the targeting options for field hockey are non-existent on these platforms pretty much. So you'd have a broad interest targeting on Facebook of field hockey, but that's it. So you have one interest targeting. There's no further filtering you can do. So you'd get, a couple of million people in that audience, but maybe only half of them actually play field hockey. Some of them just are interested in it or have watched it at some point in their life. So that we quickly ruled out because it just wasn't really working. And then we focused on organic marketing. It's been pretty much 99% of our growth has been organic.
Yeah, it's something that we found as well, actually, which is quite interesting. So, we did a survey of all of our users back in September, I think. And the percentage of people who came from paid marketing was like 25% or something. The rest of it is all word of mouth, which is crazy. And so we were kind of increasing our paid marketing budget and not seeing proportional results because obviously most of our marketing was coming through word of mouth. And so it was a great kind of, a great indication that we should be spending time elsewhere and trying to grow our marketing elsewhere. I mean, your background is in social media, obviously. We discussed that before the pod. How do you bring that into Rival Hockey? So you mentioned a bit about TikTok. What is your strategy with that beyond just the sponsorships, the kind of content itself?
So in terms of TikTok, I think the main strategy we started out, so we're trying to progress at the moment, but we started out on a sort of broad hockey interest. So we've been posting sort of viral videos about hockey in general, not necessarily, forcing our equipment onto people, just, trying to build a really healthy community of field hockey players. We've managed to grow to almost 50k followers doing that in the last couple of months. So it's been pretty good. But we're now sort of progressing that onto not just viral content, from other, reposting other accounts. We're trying to then sort of position that into behind the scenes, what is Rival Hockey, start to show more of our sponsored players, them doing skills with their equipment, us filming our own stuff. So I'll get on the pitch and do some skills and then, post some tutorials, how to do certain tricks, that kind of thing. So we're trying to, I guess, we're trying to connect with our audience a bit more at the moment. So rather than just going from a general hockey audience, we're now trying to sort of merge that into what is Rival Hockey, how are we connecting with the community, and then sort of giving our customers, that journey towards purchase, hopefully, but starting off really, broad.
I was going to ask, just taking it back a second, you said a lot of your sales come from like hockey groups, hockey clubs. What does that process look like? I mean, presumably that's a lot of cold outreach or a lot of basically like sales to these people. Yeah. A lot of no's, some yeses. Yeah.
Cold outreach is pretty much the main thing. You do get a lot of no responses, or you do get a lot of no's. And sometimes it's quite puzzling because we're genuinely trying to help these clubs to grow. A lot of them maybe are struggling because of COVID. They've lost members. They've had to put their fees up for the yearly memberships of the clubs, and we're offering them some pretty amazing discounts with no ties, and some of them still say no, or they don't even respond, which we find puzzling. But some of them are over the moon to get the support from us. They invite us down to play with them. We've been to Kent once to visit one of the clubs. We're going down to Kent Uni this month as well to play a competitive match. From rival sponsor players are coming from all around the country to play on our team versus the Kent Uni team. So it's going to be a pretty special event, and people are traveling from up to 4 or 5 hours away just to play that match with us, which is pretty cool.
That's when you've got a good community.
Exactly. Yeah.
My next question is around bringing it back to the product, modeling that product. We talked a bit earlier on about samples, but especially with quite a relatively technical product like a hockey stick or other products you have, how do you manage that process of modeling it and of like the iterative process of improving that with a manufacturer?
So it's pretty complicated process. So manufacturing like a hockey stick, you may think, oh, maybe that will take a week to produce. it actually takes up to 2 months to produce a batch, and that's when you actually know from start to finish what you're doing. So you haven't even tried to change anything. So it's a really involved process, really technical process. Often involves a lot of trial and error. So getting samples, deciding, okay, we need to tweak this a little bit. We need to then go back to the manufacturer, and be extremely specific, because obviously communication is definitely key, especially when their English isn't their first language. Sketches, 3D mock-ups. You just have to, I think for anyone trying to create a technical product, you have to be as specific as possible. So if you can get like a 3D CAD mock-up where you've got every single specification lined up, you've got all the numbers, you know exactly how it should look, then I think that's the best way to avoid error.
How difficult is it to create a 3D model on CAD? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. It's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, there's definitely a learning curve to it, but you know, there's definitely people out there on Fiverr.com that could obviously mock one up for you and get help. And we've outsourced quite a lot of our sort of design process. I'm not the most creative person. I'm more of a technical person, doing the back end sort of stuff. But in terms of like the actual designs for our initial sticks, we outsourced that, and it went down really well. So
very nice.
You mentioned it takes 2 months once you've kind of got everything finalized. What's taking the time there? What's taking so long?
So I think most of it is the sort of carbon fiber element of the sticks. So our highest premium range is 95% carbon fiber, 5% Kevlar, and to actually get the layering on the carbon fiber and all the intricacies and getting it without air bubbles and all these kind of defects that you can get, it takes a long time. So I'd say probably at least a month, if not a month and a half, is getting that raw stick made. After that, you know, the paint, the decals, the finishing touches, probably only a couple more weeks. But the raw materials to actually create that carbon fiber in the first place is a big job.
Yeah. I guess that kind of leads me on to my next question about pricing. How do you do your pricing? What are the factors you're taking into account?
So we've actually made a really big change last month in terms of our pricing. So typically, in terms of the hockey market, a top-end stick, which is what we tend to sell top-end stuff because we want, you know, performance is at the top of our priority.
Yep.
Top-end sticks can be anywhere from 250 to 400 pounds from a brand, right? But a little known fact is that pretty much every brand in the hockey market makes their sticks in one of a few factories. So just like, I guess, Nike and Adidas, all the big clothing brands, they tend to make their stuff in the same factory or similar factories. It's the same with field hockey. There's probably one or two innovative brands that make their own sticks in-house, but the rest, it's all in a couple of factories. So yeah, there's not really any excuse for the price difference between, say, a £200 stick and a £400 stick, because we know the technology is pretty much the same. So it's all about the marketing. And we've made a big commitment recently to reduce the cost of our sticks drastically to try and basically help the hockey community, because myself as a player, I obviously want affordable sticks that are the best possible quality, and are going to make me, you know, perform well on the pitch. I don't want to be buying a £400 stick that maybe only will last me for 1-2 seasons, because it's a really big expense. And what we've basically done is we've identified that retailers are part of this problem. So I guess from the manufacturer to the customer, there's a number of different steps. So say us as a brand, we buy it from the manufacturer. Then typically the brand will then sell it to a wholesaler or retailer, and then the retailer sells it to the customer. And at each step of this process, there's obviously a markup, and quite a big one. Some retailers want an 100% markup, so they're doubling the price of the stick. So what we've done is made a commitment not to go into retail.
Interesting.
So what we've done is then completely slash the price of our sticks because we're not going to sell to retail and delivering that saving back to the customer.
Interesting.
And it's obviously a controversial decision because retailers equal more exposure. You can get, a global outreach by partnering with different retailers, but it doesn't necessarily serve the hockey community well because you're essentially just charging them more because you can.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
just D2C, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not something I technically agree with as a player. First and foremost, I want to be able to give our players the best possible equipment without that price.
So where do your hockey sticks fall on the price ladder?
We're the cheapest by far. I've not seen any brands offering the same amount of carbon fiber, which is generally speaking how you gauge price. The lower the carbon fiber, the lower the price of the stick. I've not seen any brand be able to compete with our price.
What does that actually look like in terms of real prices?
Our 95% carbon sticks, which is our highest one we offer, £140. They used to be 220.
Yeah.
The cheapest you can probably get right now is at least 160, 180, and that's normally when they're on sale as well from a different brand. But typically speaking, those could be 200 to 400
Wow.
for those kind of sticks.
That's very interesting.
So with your business, you started off with sticks, and obviously you moved into kind of clothing and other items. What was the decision behind that? I mean, and is that part of the plan for the future as well, kind of going into more hockey-related products?
So essentially every product we have released so far has been as a result of our audience requesting it. So another, I guess, commitment is to always listen to our customers.
Yeah.
We do a lot of polling, let's say on Instagram or on TikTok, saying, what is it you want to see? And we know that once we have an idea, we can then get a product and improve it, because you have to stand out from competitors, obviously, improve the product, and then you've got, something that can actually make you like a market leader in that space. So everything we've done so far has been as a result of people requesting it. They want this product. So shin pads, for example, everyone needs shin pads playing on the pitch. You can't play without them. So we thought, okay, how can we take a shin pad and make it better than competitors? And what we've done is, again, lots and lots of iterations, lots of sampling, lots of testing. And we've made probably one of the comfiest shin pads on the market at the moment. So some people even forget they're wearing them. That's how comfy they are, versus others that maybe start rubbing on your leg, chafing. It's just not comfortable.
I used to wear hockey shin pads for football when I lost my sister's ones, and they're bloody uncomfortable. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll use those next time I'm playing footy.
Yeah, and in terms of the future of the business, I mean, what do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
5 years. So I'd like to be in the position where we can say that we're one of the leading brands. So there's probably, including the small brands at the moment, there's probably up to 50 field hockey brands, which is not that many if you're talking global.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are quite well established. So if you're talking about the market leader, Grays, they've been in business for a long, long time, like 40, 50 years, producing hockey and cricket equipment as well. So to compete with a big player like that has big budgets, dominating retail, if we can get to a position where we're saying, okay, we're not as big as them, because that's a bit of a massive goal that we're probably not going to get to in 5 years, maybe 20. But if we can get to the position where we're top 5, then I think that's a good goal to have.
How are you going to push international sales? What's the strategy around that?
So this is where retail would typically come into as a brand. And I realized that obviously we've sort of shot ourselves in the foot in some ways by committing not to work with retailers. But I don't think it's essential for growing a business to always go into retail. So I think the biggest challenge and the biggest thing we're looking to push towards is working with fulfillment companies overseas at the moment, so we can ship directly from our factories rather than always shipping from the UK to, let's say, Australia, where we're talking 40, 50, 60 pounds to send a stick, which just, it's not great when the customer gets to the checkout and sees, oh, that's expensive for shipping. and it's probably going to take a couple of weeks as well.
Mm.
You know, it really just kills that sort of conversion and the end part of the checkout for us. So yeah, if we can get to a point where we've got stock in several parts of the world in our most prominent countries, then I think we'd have good growth.
What do the other D2C, if there are any players, look like? I mean, are they doing something similar?
So I think pretty much we are the only, at least up and coming brand that is not committing to retail.
Interesting.
Which is why, again, it's a big decision for us to commit to. Some people might even say it's a stupid decision because you're potentially limiting your growth, but at the same time, as we said, the customer should come first. Why should a customer pay £300 for a stick when it should be 140?
Yeah,
the margins are just ridiculous. So I don't agree with that. I think you should always put the customer first. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do going forwards.
Definitely. In terms of the marketing approach then as well, I mean, are you going to try and stick to similar marketing approach internationally as you're doing in the UK, kind of influencer and sponsorship?
I think it probably has to be. So in the UK, as well as the sponsorships, we obviously have the clubs as well.
Yeah.
And something we're looking to do a lot more of, for example, the event in Kent we've got coming up is actually visit these clubs, make those connections with our players, give them the sticks to try, because we get asked probably 10, 20 times a week, can I try one of your sticks for free? And we say, well, if we said yes to everyone, we'd have no stock, would we? So at least in the UK, we're looking to do a lot more of that. But obviously overseas, we can't just go touring the country and let everyone try the sticks. So I think our sponsored players are going to have to do that job for us. So I think it probably starts into club. So let's say one player overseas gets sponsored by us. They then let one of their friends in their club try the stick. That then comes back to us. The other player wants to be sponsored, and then we sort of grow that way.
Okay.
And that's it's working so far. It's not as quick as obviously the UK clubs.
Yeah.
But it's definitely working.
And hockey itself is mainly played in English-speaking countries, right?
Mostly, yes. I mean, it's huge in India.
Yeah.
They have obviously a big population as well. But typically the Indian players will buy the Indian stick brands. So it's typically UK is sort of the hub for brands. You get the biggest brand names are based in the UK. But obviously all the manufacturing is overseas. It's India and Pakistan as well.
But it's quite what's a nice way of internationalizing is that the places you're going, they all speak English. So although it's a slightly different culture, it's not like you're expanding to Mexico and you've got to deal with influencers there, which is what we might be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a nice way of slowly going influencer by influencer into each market.
Yeah. In terms of your shipping, obviously you mentioned that internationally, it's a little bit difficult with the transit times and the price. What are your kind of biggest pain points as a business when it comes to shipping that you're kind of looking to solve, aside from just the international piece?
So I guess a good example of this is Black Friday. We had a record sales, over 100 orders in a single day, which is crazy for us as a small business, which means shipping. We had loads and loads of orders to send out. Busy time of year for the couriers as well, so things happen, things get lost, as you'd expect. And for example, UK orders, which we ship with Hermes, they're notorious for not being able to contact them at all. So if you go on the Hermes website, you speak to a robot and get nothing. And the way we've obviously solved that is Mule. So you guys have good support, and we can actually get to get a response from Hermes and say, where's the package? And then we can actually get a response on that and hopefully solve it for the customer. So
yeah, interesting. It's good to hear. Very happy.
Is the sustainability a part of your business at all? Do you see that coming more important?
Definitely. I think it's becoming more and more important for the customer as well. So we've already taken quite a few steps on sustainability. So we did, when we very first started, we were very big on our custom branding on our packaging. So we did something no other hockey brand has done. Rather than just sending in cardboard box, we did really fancy postal tubes that were black with the Rival logo on it. Cost us quite a lot of money, but it was good for, you know, branding and a good impact. But what we've done is taken a step back and said, okay, these packages are only used once. So in terms of like environmental impact, is it sensible for us as a business to be, you know, sending these out when they can't be reused? So yeah, we've taken a step back on that, and cost wise as well, it wasn't really sustainable. So we've completely changed that, gone to, you know, brown cardboard, always recyclable. And we're just trying to, you know, be more conscious in terms of, you know, sustainability.
What's carbon fiber like as sustainability?
It's probably not the best, to be honest. I think it takes quite a lot of resources to produce that. Lots of machinery, custom machinery that's not going to be, you know, energy efficient per se. But if we went back to the old days of wooden sticks, which used to be the case, then, you know, we wouldn't have any customers. So I think
there's a line, isn't there?
Yeah. Until there's a revolutionary sort of technology or new material that we can sort of merge into that is a lot more friendly for the environment, then I think we have to stick with carbon fiber for the time being. And
your parcels are carbon neutral as well, so
they are indeed.
You're making up for it there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Last question from me is obviously for you. I mean, you've got a kind of day job at the moment.
Yep.
And you're looking to make this full time. At what point are you going to make that switch? Obviously, it's a big move. But what are you kind of looking for before you make that plunge?
You're right. It's definitely a big move, and it's something I've been thinking about quite a lot. It's something I could have done already, but it potentially very, very risky. Obviously, you got to pay the bills. So yes, it's tricky, and I've been pumping all the money back into the business. And I don't think it would be right for me to say, okay, I'm going to take a salary every single month at the moment and then not be able to reinvest back into the business.
Yeah.
Because I think that will really, in 5 years' time, if let's say I did that today, I think I'd really regret that, because the growth of the business would be massively slowed. So I think until we can get to a point where we're much more profitable and we can take money out of the business without it impacting, let's say, our stock flow coming in, you know, because if we have a 2-month lead time on our sticks, we need to plan ahead a lot, and we need to, you know, put a deposit down for our next batch of sticks before we've even sold the current ones. So cash flow is quite a tricky thing to handle. So taking a salary out of that as well, I think would really put us in quite a tricky position. You know, it's only been a year, so given that most businesses don't make a profit in the first year, and we have turned a profit, I think we're doing well. And I think if we keep that momentum, then hopefully I can then, you know, commit to full time without it being, you know, a really risky decision.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Last question for me. Your reviews online are very, very high, 4.9 out of 5.
Yep.
What is the number one most important thing to keep that review score so high?
I think it's just always put the customer first. So we've had, you know, customers that they've had a stick that's broken almost a year after they purchased it, which our you know, guarantee on the website would say 6 months. We've replaced it anyway, because we want that customer to be happy and turn into sort of a long-term relationship with the brand. We don't want them to say, okay, I've used a Rival stick, I really liked it, but the customer service was a bit lacking, so next year I might try a different stick. We want these people to try Rival once and stick with us for 5-10 years. So I think putting that customer first, it might cost us a bit more in the beginning, but I think long term it's really going to pay off for us. And I think a lot of the big brands, what they tend to do, as soon as they see growth, they tend to stop putting the customer first. They tend to just throw as many products as they can, release more. Every single year they'll release a new stick that's, you know, no different than the last, apart from they change the color, but they're not innovating or anything, and they just stop putting the customer first. So I think as long as we maintain that, and, you know, we're always replying to customers quickly, we're having genuine conversations with them, then I think we'll stay on top of that. And I know it's not necessarily an easy thing to do as you grow. You know, the more busy you get, the harder that is to do, to, you know, take the time to respond to every customer quickly. But I think as you guys do, you tend to have really fast customer service. So I think it's got to be key, especially when you're dealing with something that's so personal to people. A hockey stick is something people are going to use week in, week out, you know, multiple times a week for 1 year, 2 years before they get a new one. So it's not something you want to, you know, mess up. It's a big thing for people. And once they find something they like, they tend to stick to it. So you could have a customer for 10 years if you please them once. So I think it's always important to please the customer.
Definitely put the customer first.
Yeah.
We'll leave the episode on that note. Thanks very much for listening, guys. George, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
It's good.
Yeah, see you next time.